What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the JT Sports Podcast. I'm your host, JT, here to break down and give my picks against the spread, along with my score predictions for every game in the NFL for Week 11. We have some bangers coming up, man. We got the Seahawks and the Rams duking it out for first place in the NFC West. It's that time of the year when you start to see the contenders separate themselves from the pretenders. Which one are the Broncos? We're about to find that out because they got Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs rolling into the Mile High, fresh off a bye. Sunday Night Football. The Lions take on the Philadelphia Eagles. There are so many great matchups that we have been blessed with that I cannot wait to talk about. But before we dive into anything, man, if you live, eat, breathe, and die football, congratulations. You have come to the right place. We're talking NFL, college football, 24/7, 365 days throughout the year. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you can get your football fix in. If you're a football junkie like me, man, I gotta have it. I gotta have it every day, every hour. I just love football, and I hope you do too. I would love to believe that you do, because if you didn't, I don't think you would have clicked on this episode. If you enjoy the content and you want to support us, all we ask is that you take 30 seconds, maybe less than that, to rate JT Sports 5 stars on Apple and Spotify. The links are down in the pinned comment and description down below. We are trying to get to 100 5-star reviews before the end of this year. We're 20 away from that goal on Apple. We got a long way to go on Spotify. So if you enjoy the content and you want to support us, help your brother out. Rate JT Sports 5 stars wherever you get your podcast from, and let's dive into it. I don't know why, but we continue to get really crappy matchups on Thursday Night Football. Last week, we got the Raiders versus the Broncos, which that game was a lot more competitive than what most of us expected it to be. And this week, we have the honor of watching the Jets versus the Patriots. The Patriots are currently favored by 13.5. They're one of the hottest teams in the NFL at the moment. They're riding high on a 7-game win streak. Drake Maye is playing like an MVP candidate. And the Patriots are one of the few teams that not only has a top 10 offense, but a top 10 defense as well. And the Jets, even though they're in full reset mode after trading Sauce Gardner and Quillen Williams away, they got a win last week against the Browns, and they now are winners of 2 straight. If the Jets are going to be able to hang around in this game and to keep it close, they're going to have to ensure that Breece Hall gets the ball in his hands nearly every single play, because good things happen when Breece Hall gets the ball. There's a reason why Kansas City was interested in trading for him, and they were really stupid not being willing to come up off that 3rd-round pick to get him, because Breece Hall has been the best player on the Jets offense this year. They're going to be without Garrett Wilson in this game, and with the struggles that Justin Fields has had in the passing game, he's been held to under 50 yards passing in 4 games this year. So safe to say, the only way the Jets are going to move the ball on this Patriots defense is with Breece Hall. And they can find a bunch of different ways to get him involved in this game. Doesn't have to just be handing him the football 20, 30 times. They can get creative, line him up out wide, try to get him out in space with some quick passes, some screen plays. Breece Hall is going to be the key factor to the Jets trying to find a way to make this game competitive, which is going to be easier said than done, because the Patriots are the best team in the NFL against the run. They're number 1 in rushing yards per game allowed. So you're going to have to also use Justin Fields' legs as well, because he's not really going to give you that much throwing the football. You would like to think he can give you at least 125, 130 pass yards, but even asking Justin Fields to do that is asking a lot out of him. And I like Justin Fields, but when Woody Johnson came out a few weeks ago and made those comments about how he would like to see a quarterback that can complete the forward pass. Look, I don't necessarily agree with throwing your players under the bus, but it's not like the brother was wrong either. I'm with you when you're right, and Justin Fields has to step it up, especially in this game, if the Jets are going to have a chance of hanging around against the Patriots, because we know the Patriots are going to put up some points with how well Drake Maye has been playing. The offensive line has started to improve a little bit. The receivers, you have Stephon Diggs, and then you have guys like Pop Douglas, Mac Hollins, Kayshon Boutte. His status is up in the air for this game. You just have a bunch of guys who seem to just find ways to step up and get it done every single week. It's just a new guy who ends up making plays at receiver for the Patriots, and mainly that's because of how good Drake Maye has been, especially with his accuracy throwing the deep ball downfield. And he also is really good running the football. And while we're on this topic of the Patriots run game, Travion Henderson has finally been let loose. For some reason, Mike Vrabel had this brother in the doghouse, and it didn't take him until last week to finally realize what Travion Henderson is capable of. And I don't know why the Patriots have been so hesitant to unleash the beast that is Travion Henderson. If you was watching this dude at Ohio State, oh my goodness, he was damn near the best running back in all of college football, up there with Ashton Genty or Marion Hampton. I thought he would have been a first-round pick. He's good catching the ball out of the backfield as well. He's pretty good in pass protection. At least I thought he was in pass protection. I don't really know why the Patriots, it's taking them so long to get Travion Henderson going. But if he can build off last week's performance, and that's another weapon that the Patriots have that the Jets are going to have to worry about. I'm taking the Patriots to cover, and I have them winning this game 34-13. This is the divisional game, so it could be a lot closer than what we expect it to be. Like last week, we thought the Broncos were going to destroy the Raiders, and that game ended up coming down to the wire. I don't expect that to be the case unless Justin Fields ends up shocking the world and he can actually throw the ball for more than 100 yards. The Patriots, it's going to be a pretty easy night for them. All they have to do is stack the box, slow down Breece Hall, and force Justin Fields to beat them with his arm, which is something that he has struggled to be able to do consistently. So I'm going to take the Patriots to win outright, and I got them covering as well. If you ever get bored during the middle of the day and you're trying to talk some football, join the JT Sports Discord server, man. Link is down in description and pinned comment below. We're trying to talk some ball with you, man. We want to hear from you. Go ahead and join the JT Sports Discord server. All the links are in the description and pinned comment section below. Commanders and the Dolphins are going to be facing off across the pond in Madrid. This is a 9:30 a.m. kickoff on the NFL Network. Unless you're a fan of the Commanders or the Dolphins, you probably won't be up to see the start of this game. But if you are, this should be a pretty competitive game. The Dolphins are a 2.5-point favorite, and they're coming off the best performance of the season and probably their best performance ever under Mike McDaniel, crushing the Bills. And the Dolphins normally play pretty well against average to below average teams. The Commanders, this season has just been a nightmare for them. They've had a rash of injuries on the defense. Their pass rush has been bombarded with injuries. Same thing with their secondary, and on offense, same thing can be said. You lose Jaden Daniels. It's crazy because you got them back a few weeks ago, Sunday night against the Seahawks, and you lose them again. And one of the most gruesome injuries that you'll ever watch. I can't even watch the replay of it. Anytime I see it on my timeline, I just block whoever posted it because it's one of the most ugliest injuries that you can ever watch playing this sport. And even though Marcus Mariota isn't Jaden Daniels, he at least is going to give them a shot at being able to possibly pull off this upset because he can still throw the football pretty well. He's also a really good runner, and you pair him up with Krosky Merritt, I believe that Washington's path to having success against this Dolphins defense is on the ground because the Dolphins are 26 and rushing yards per game allowed, and right now with how this season has gone for Washington, look, yeah, you're on a 5-game losing streak. There still are a bunch of guys in that locker room like Zach Ertz, Bobby Wagner, who are at the tail ends of their careers that are still playing for pride. They're going to leave it all on the line. I don't expect for the Dolphins to just dominate this game. However, the Dolphins offensively going up against this Washington defense that is just absolutely depleted, they should be able to pick off where they left off last week. Washington is near the bottom of the NFL in pass yards per game allowed. They give up a lot of explosive plays, allowing 8.9 yards per pass, which is dead last in the NFL in that department. So Tua should be able to have a pretty good afternoon. The offensive line for Miami has been scrutinized for all of this year. Shouldn't really be a concern with Washington's inability to consistently get home unless they send extra guys, which we know Tua is pretty good against the blitz since he gets the ball out really fast. Jalen Waddle, expect him to have a big game. He'll probably go for 100 yards, 6-7 catches, maybe catch 2 touchdowns in this game. And then you also have to worry about Devon Achane with how he just is a one-play touchdown anytime he gets the ball in his hands. The Dolphins just have too many weapons for Washington to be able to keep up with. But I do think that Washington can keep this thing close. I got the Dolphins winning it 27-24. They covered that 2.5-point spread. I wouldn't be shocked if Washington won this game either. I think that the Dolphins, maybe they're riding too high off that Buffalo win and they treat that game like their Super Bowl, and maybe they come out flat and they underestimate a Washington team that, yeah, their season looks like it's over, but you still have guys that are playing for pride, playing for respect. So I expect this game to be close, but if I had to put money on this game, I'll probably take the Dolphins to win outright and take them to cover. The Panthers are going to the A to take on the Atlanta Falcons. The last time these two teams met, this game wasn't even close. The Carolina Panthers, not only did they dominate the Falcons, but they held them to a donut on the scoreboard. And you don't really see teams get held to 0 points that often in the NFL. And what's even stranger about that game is the Falcons outgained the Panthers. If you look at the box score, you probably would be really confused judging how that game played out with the fact that the Falcons outgained the Panthers in total yards, 332 to 224. They ran 11 more plays, but the difference in that game were the turnovers. Michael Penix, who normally does a pretty good job of limiting mistakes, he had 2 big turnovers in that game, which pretty much flipped the game in Carolina's favor. And although the Panthers dominated that first contest, Vegas doesn't really care about that. They have the Falcons favored by 3.5 for a very good reason, because the Falcons, from a talent standpoint, are better than what their record shows. From a talent standpoint, they have a better team than Carolina. They have a better defense, a lot more weapons on offense. We know about Bijan Robinson, even though it's very criminal how they're doing that, brother, in the red zone. We get it that Tyler Algier is a really good running back. But come on, man. Bijan Robinson is a top 3 running back in this league. There's no way how you can be late in these games and have Tyler Algier on the damn field over Bijan Robinson. And don't even get me started on how they're trying to use Bijan Robinson as a wide receiver, but all they do is throw bubble screens. When he's out wide, there's no creativity with the Falcons offense. You see, the Falcons don't have the record that they have due to lack of talent. They have the record that they have because of poor coaching. But they should be able to shake back in this game because Michael Penix, he's going up against the Panthers defense that isn't good against the pass. Their pass rushes, man, their secondary outside of J.C. Horn, I bet you guys couldn't even name their other second corner without using Google. So with how well Drake London has been playing, along with Kyle Pitts, who finally is playing up to his full potential, I expect for Michael Penix to have a bounce back game. For some reason, the Carolina Panthers, every time they play the Atlanta Falcons, Bryce Young always plays his best football. This season, the Panthers have been winning in spite of Bryce Young because they have that monster running back named Rico Dowdle. And all the Falcons have to do is sell out against the run, which is easier said than done because they gave up 200 yards and a hat trick to Jonathan Taylor last week. The Panthers are 8th in the NFL in rushing yards per game, but if you're the Atlanta Falcons, with how good your pass rush is, Jalen Walker, James Pierce, Billy Bowman has been a stud, along with Xavier Watts. We know what Jesse Bates is capable of at safety. Look, Jeff Alberg, all he has to do is tell those boys, hey, man, we don't respect Bryce Young. If we're going to lose this game, Bryce Young is going to have to be the dude to deliver that L to us because we're not going to allow the Panthers to do what they do best and run the ball like how they have been able to with a lot of success this season. If you can slow down Carolina's run game and you force Bryce Young to beat you, it favors the Atlanta Falcons, which is why the Atlanta Falcons are probably the favorite in this game. The key to deciding who wins this game is going to be the turnover battle. The Falcons are 8th in turnover margin. The Carolina Panthers are 25th in that department. Their defense doesn't force a lot of takeaways. And offensively, when you put the ball in Bryce Young's hands and you ask him to win you a game, more times than not, he's not really able to come through if you have a somewhat serviceable defense, which the Falcons, in my opinion, have a top 10 defense in the league right now. I'm taking them to win 21-13, and I'm taking them to cover as well. I just don't expect for Carolina's offense to really do that much unless they get assists from their defense and they can win a turnover battle like how they did last game. But Michael Penix, I've been listening to a few of his press conferences after last week's performance. He left a lot of plays on the table that could have changed the outcome of that game, and I'm expecting him to shake back. And I still would take Michael Penix over Bryce Young. He has been the better of the two quarterbacks this year. And when he's playing good football, the Atlanta Falcons are a pretty tough team to beat, considering the talent advantage that they have over Carolina. Give me the Falcons to win. Now, this should be a really good one. We got the Buccaneers versus the Buffalo Bills. The Bills got embarrassed by the Miami Dolphins last week. If I didn't know any better, I would have told you that they threw that game intentionally because they took themselves to lose. They took the Dolphins to cover, and they took the Dolphins money line to put a little bit of bread in their homies' pockets, because that's the only way that I can justify the Bills' performance last week. There's no way in hell they had any business losing to Miami in the fashion that they did. And this is a great bounce back spot for Buffalo. They are a very good team when they're playing at home. They don't really lose a lot. And on top of that, you're going up against a Buccaneers defense that last time they went up against an explosive back like Jahmyr Gibbs, he got off. He had 2 touchdowns. He was averaging 8 yards per carry and had 136 yards on the ground. So I expect for James Cook to replicate the performance that we saw from Jahmyr Gibbs in that game a few weeks ago, because he's a similar back to what Jahmyr Gibbs is. Now, he's not as fast as what Jahmyr is, but he's not too far away. And the Bills' 3 losses have all occurred when James Cook has had under 100 yards rushing. And they don't really have a lot of talent at wide receiver. So you got to get the ball in James Cook's hands. He's second in the league in rushing yards. He's averaging over 5 yards per carry. And he also has 7 touchdowns. And he's also a really good back as well. So I'm not really comprehending why they're not getting him more involved in the passing game. But with the amount of injuries that the Buccaneers have on their defense, now the Bills have some injuries also. We'll get into that a little bit later. This should be a bounce back game for Buffalo. Now, Todd Bowles, he likes to send a lot of pressure. He's pretty good when it comes to picking his spots, when to blitz, when to send extra guys. Josh Allen, though, when he went up against the Atlanta Falcons a few weeks ago, they had a similar game plan. They just blitzed the hell out of him. And he has a tendency to hold the ball a lot longer than what he should because he's trying to make big plays happen. And sometimes that can get Josh Allen a little bit of a bind. Going up against this Buccaneers defense, they know that Josh Allen is going to try to make extra plays. And that's when that defense is going to try to swipe at the ball, try to force those turnovers. And that's when the Bills get into a hole. They need Josh Allen to play a clean game, because you don't want to give Baker Mayfield any extra possessions, considering the amount of injuries that you also have on the defense side of the football, which includes you being down your 2 starting defensive tackles. Now, the good thing is the Buccaneers had to win this game on the arm of Baker Mayfield, because their run game hasn't been that good with the absence of Bucky Irvin. Now, I know what you're saying. Oh, JT, the Bills' run defense is atrocious. Yes, the Bills' run defense isn't good. We all know that, but they just haven't had a lot of efficiency running the football enough to give you confidence that they can take advantage of a lackluster run defense in Buffalo. And the Buffalo Bills have showed us that they get up to play against good competition. Yes, they have played down to inferior teams this year, but when their back is against the wall and you put them in a corner, they're going to push back. And the Buccaneers need more from Baker Mayfield than the Bills do for Josh Allen. The Bills are going to be able to run the football because of how good James Cook is. Right now, the Buccaneers, they're going with Rashad White, Sean Tucker, and neither one of those guys are really doing enough to really make the ground game a serious threat for Buffalo. Now, I'm not saying that Baker Mayfield isn't going to go off. Baker Mayfield is one of those ones. He's a dog, too. He's going to get his. This is going to be a back-and-forth game. I expect about 3-4 lead changes, and it probably comes down to whoever gets the ball last. But give me Buffalo, though. They are 4-1 at home this season. They also are pretty good against the spread at home as well. Now, the Buccaneers are 4-1 on the road against the spread. So I'm going to take the Buccaneers to cover, but I'm going to take the Bills to win outright, 28-27. It comes down to a field goal. Whoever gets the final possession is going to be the team that wins this game. I think it's going to be Josh Allen, so give me the Bills. If you don't want the starting quarterback for your favorite football team to play like Anthony Richardson, give JT Sports a 5-star review. Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from, JT Sports is available. The links are down in the description and pinned comment below. The Houston Texans versus the Tennessee Titans. The Texans have just come out of nowhere. It looked like they were left for dead after they lost to the Seahawks, and all of a sudden, they're right back in the thick of things for not just potentially making it to the playoffs, but also maybe sneaking back into the conversation for winning the AFC South, because the Indianapolis Colts, they've kind of have looked a little bit lackluster of late. And the Texans are a 6.5-point favorite against the worst team in the NFL. Now, the Titans are coming off a bye, but I don't really think that's going to mean much when you consider the fact that this Texans defense is arguably the best in all of football. They are number 1 in points per game and number 1 in yards per game allowed. You have an offense that's starting to figure things out despite C.J. Stroud having to miss a little bit of time. His status is doubtful for this game. He still is in concussion protocol, but Davis Mills is good enough to get the job done. Had an insane comeback last week. One of the biggest comebacks that we've had all season. They just were lights out in the fourth quarter. And you got Nico Collins, Dalton Schultz, who have been really good as of late. They've ramped it up. But how about that young rookie stud that they have at running back in the Sheriff, Woody Marks? In the last time these two teams played, Woody Marks got off on the Tennessee Titans. This was kind of Woody Marks' coming out party. This was that game that everybody started saying, okay, Woody Marks, we need to start giving this young brother a little bit more run than what we currently are giving him, allowing old man Nick Chubb to take away from his carries, man. When you put the ball in Woody Marks' hands, he makes plays. He has great vision. He is very explosive. Doesn't have great long speed, but he has quick acceleration. He gets 0 to 100 really quick. And if you don't have Woody Marks on your fantasy team already, go ahead and pick him up, because he's going to go off against a Tennessee Titans defense that isn't really that good at doing anything. They're not that good against the pass. They're not that good against the run, more so due to their offense being so bad that their defense just gets worn down incredibly fast. And the Titans got blanked in their last outing against the Texans. Now, they probably will put up a few more points than 0, but Cam Ward more than likely is going to struggle against this defense because the Tennessee Titans, you're just trying to get to the offseason. You just want this season to be over. You're trying to get a new head coach. So you pretty much are just hoping to lose this game, which you probably will. I'm going to take Houston, not just to win, but I'm also going to take them to cover also. 35-6. Look, I love Cam Ward. My favorite Miami player ever. I'm a Miami Hurricanes fan. I thought that he would be a lot better than what he has been so far, but his situation hasn't really been that good. The receivers aren't great. The offensive line sucks. The coaching is terrible. Free my dude Cam Ward. Hopefully they get it right with their next head coach hire, but the Titans, man, they're just going to dog out Tennessee again. But on the bright side, at least Tennessee doesn't put up 0. I think they do get 2 field goals up, but they win 35-6, and I'm taking them to cover, and they will be one of my best bets for this weekend. The Chicago Bears versus the Minnesota Vikings. You have two teams that are trending in completely opposite direction. The Bears are winners of 6 out of their last 7, while the Vikings have lost 3 out of their last 4 games. Now, in week 1, the Vikings won this game with J.J. McCarthy's fourth quarter heroics. He was horrific for the first 3 quarters. And in the final 15 minutes, he just got the spirit of Tom Brady in him, and he led them to a comeback win. And J.J. McCarthy is a roller coaster ride. You know, throughout the course of the game, there's a lot of highs and lows with J.J. McCarthy. He either starts out great and finishes really bad, or he starts out bad and finishes really strong. You don't really know what you're going to get out of J.J. McCarthy. Now, the talent is there for J.J. McCarthy to have a good game. The Chicago Bears defense, although they do have a well-respected defensive coordinator and Dennis Allen, statistically, their defense isn't really all that great. So J.J. McCarthy, with him having Jay Jettas, Jordan Addison, you know, the offensive line is starting to get a little bit healthy. I could see him having a pretty good performance. And even if J.J. McCarthy struggles, Brian Flores' defense will be able to bail him out when he makes mistakes or he comes out a little bit shaky, because Caleb Williams' playing style doesn't really translate to success against Brian Flores' defense. And even last week, although the Minnesota Vikings lost that game against Baltimore pretty handily, Brian Flores' defense was keeping them in that game. And if it wasn't for J.J. McCarthy's turnovers, gifting the Ravens extra possessions and favorable field position, you know, that could have been a much different outcome. Because although the Baltimore Ravens do have Lamar, and he's the greatest quarterback of all time, in my opinion, Brian Flores does give him a lot of issues. And Caleb Williams is more so of that Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray kind of quarterback, where he plays a lot of backyard football. A lot of his big plays come outside the pocket. When you're going up against Brian Flores' defense, if you don't make fast decisions, if you're holding on to the ball, trying to extend plays, mistakes are going to happen. And I expect for Minnesota to come away with a few turnovers, which helps out J.J. McCarthy in that offense, put up points. Can you win the fourth quarter? Because the Bears are as good as anybody when you get into the fourth. And that's when they start to play their best football. They had 2 comebacks last week against the Giants and against the Cincinnati Bengals. And if J.J. McCarthy isn't rolling early and he goes into that fourth quarter playing like how he did against Baltimore, the Bears will win this game. What will decide the outcome of this matchup comes down to Minnesota's ability to slow down the run game of the Bears. Now, we already know about DeAndre Swift, but Monangai, the rookie running back that they got from Rutgers, he's been really good also. And everybody talks about Caleb Williams, but they never talk about the Bears and how dominant they've been running the football. They are averaging 147 rushing yards per game, which is the second best in the NFL, and they're third in yards per carry. And the Minnesota Vikings run defense isn't bad. It's around the middle of the pack. If they can force the Bears to have to rely on Caleb Williams to throw the ball 35, 40 times, then you play right into the strength of Brian Flores, because then he can start sending a bunch of those all-out blitzes, cover zero looks. And I don't think Caleb Williams' playing style is really going to translate to him having a lot of success against this aggressive style defense. But I'm going to take the Chicago Bears to win this game 27-17, because I believe that the turnover battle is going to be one that Chicago comes out on top. J.J. McCarthy, we know that he's prone to mistakes. The Bears have the best turnover margin in the NFL. Caleb Williams, he could struggle in this game. I expect him to struggle, but one thing that Caleb Williams does well is he doesn't put the ball in harm's way. He doesn't turn it over a lot. The Bears are number one in takeaways, and they're fourth in giveaways. And when you got a young quarterback going through the ups and downs, trying to get acclimated to the speed of the NFL and J.J. McCarthy, you're going to come up on the losing end of that turnover battle more times than not. So I'm taking the Bears to win outright, 27-17, and I'm taking them to cover plus 3.5. The Packers versus the Giants. Now, it's strange how the Packers are a 7.5-point favorite going into this game, even though they have a way better team than what the Giants do on paper. They probably should be a double-digit favorite, but they're not, due to their tendency to play down the competition. And the Giants have promoted Mike Kafka as their interim head coach after parting ways with Brian Daboll. And one of the big changes that Mike Kafka made off rip was going with famous Jameis in replace of Jackson Dart, with him most likely missing this game. And he has Russell Wilson backing him up. And Jameis Winston, if you haven't been familiar with the Jameis Winston experience by now, what you can expect is, yeah, you're going to have a few turnovers, but you're going to score a lot of points with Jameis Winston. Prepare yourself for one hell of a ride. If your starting quarterback in fantasy has a bye week, or you have some injuries, or you're just not getting the production that you would like from that position, you need to go pick up Jameis Winston off the waivers and start him. You will not regret it, because one thing about Jameis Winston, you're going to have some damn offense with him at quarterback, and he's fun to watch, man. And the Packers defense has played at a top 7, top 8 level, but with the struggles that they've had on offense, people wanting Matt LaFleur to give up the play calling, Jordan Love missing easy throws, the offense just looks out of sync. And the Giants are one of those teams that are very feisty. They just have a hard time being able to finish games. Like when they blew that big lead and they allowed the Broncos to hang 33 on them in the fourth quarter. They blew a lead last week against Chicago Bears. That was the straw that broke the hump on the camel's back that got Brian Daboll fired. When you're giving up the amount of leads that the Giants have given up in the fourth quarter, nobody wants to care about injuries. Injuries don't matter when you go into the fourth quarter up. Why can't you win these games? And I expect for the Giants to be able to hang around in this game. I'm taking the Giants to cover that plus 7.5. Now, the line says 7.5, but I got 6.5. But either way, I like them 6.5 plus 7.5. If you want to buy an extra point to be safe, the Packers aren't one of those teams with the style of football that they play being so heavily dependent on Josh Jacobs in that run game that they're just built to dominate teams. And the Packers haven't blown out anybody this year outside of the Pittsburgh Steelers, really. That's like their biggest win of the year. They barely beat the Arizona Cardinals. They beat them by 4. They only beat the Browns by 3. They beat them 13-10. And they lost to the Panthers recently, 16-13. So this is just a Packers team that just doesn't always play button up when they're going up against teams that you expect them to blow out. So I love the Giants. Plus 6.5, plus 7.5, whatever you feel comfortable with. They're one of my best bets of the week. And I expect for the Packers to win, but this game probably will be a nail-biter. The Bengals versus the Steelers, the sequel. The last time we saw these two teams play, they played in a Thursday night classic. The Bengals got the win 33-31. Joe Flacco had his coming out party in replace of the injured Joe Burrow. And the assignment is pretty simple for Cincinnati offensively. Get the ball to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and try to put up as many points as possible and pray to the God above that your defense can find a way to get a stop. And I listen, I don't even think God can help out this Cincinnati Bengals defense at this point, man. They're the only team in the past 50 years to lose back-to-back games, averaging 38 points or more, and still lose. Your offense is putting up nearly 40 a game while giving up 40 on defense. And look, the Bengals did kind of strap themselves financially by paying 50% of their salary cap to their top 4 players. Trey Hendrickson, who is unavailable for this game, Jamar T. Higgins, Joe Burrow. They made it hard to have enough money to field a competent defense on the field. But that's no excuse. These are professionals. You have a defensive coordinator that is struggling to have success with probably the worst defensive personnel in the league. But there still is no excuse to be giving up 40 a game on defense. And with Trey Hendrickson still being out, the pass rush isn't going to be that good. You're dead last in almost every statistical category, last in points per game, last in yards. You can't stop the run. You can't really do anything. So you need your offense to put up 40. And we know that the Steelers are going to be able to put up points in this game, especially coming off their abysmal performance that they had last week against the Chargers. That is the worst game that Aaron Rodgers has had in his entire career, and he definitely will shake back with how bad Cincinnati's defense is. If you're a Bengals fan, you're saying that the Steelers' defense is just as bad as Cincinnati's. Not really. This defense has made a lot of tweaks ever since the last matchup. They recently signed Asante Samuel. He currently got signed on to the practice squad. Don't know how long that's going to last because they need that brother out there immediately with the injury to Darius Slay and how that other cornerback spot on the opposite side of Joey Porter Jr. has just been barbecue chicken, all-you-can-eat buffet. They moved Jalen Ramsey to safety, and they traded for Kyle Duggar, who has been pretty good. So the secondary, the defense overall, has played much better than what it did the last time Cincinnati went up against the Steelers defense. TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, they have awoken from whatever slumber that they were in before. And that pass rush is probably going to be the difference. And the Steelers being able to walk away with the win in this game. The Steelers just have a more trustworthy defense. Even if you're still not that high on Pittsburgh's defense, I think we can all agree that we trust this defense to get more stops than what Cincinnati's defense is capable of. And Chase Brown won't be as effective in this game as what he was in the last matchup. He had an underrated performance. He was averaging nearly 10 yards per touch, and he had over 100 yards on the ground. We saw Steelers defense that a few weeks ago shut down the front runner for MVP and Jonathan Taylor. And they also did a pretty good job of slowing down the Chargers rushing attack last week. They held them to under 4 yards per carry. So this is not the same Steelers defense that we saw Joe Flacco go off against in their Thursday night classic. I'm taking the Steelers 31-27. I still expect for Cincinnati's offense to put up points because it's hard to stop Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Joe Flacco has been playing as good as what you could ever expect for a backup quarterback to play. But I think the Steelers are good for a few key stops, especially late in this game. They get the win. I'm going to take Cincinnati to cover that plus 5.5, though. There's a heavyweight fight about to go down for first place in the NFC West between the two most dominant teams in the NFL, the Seattle Seahawks versus the Los Angeles Rams. Vegas has the Rams favored by 3.5. These two teams in their last 3 games have had the highest point differential in the NFL. The Rams have a point differential of plus 22. The Seahawks point differential has been plus 18. The Seahawks have been blowing teams out of the water. By the time they get to halftime, you're not even stressing if you're a Seahawks fan. Same thing can pretty much be said for the Los Angeles Rams. Both of these teams have outstanding quarterback play. Matthew Stafford, Sam Darnold, both are playing MVP football. Stafford, you have to give him the slight edge over Sam Darnold. He's the first quarterback in the history of the NFL with 20 touchdowns or more and no interceptions over a 6-game span. Sam Darnold, he's been out there doing this thing. He has picked up from where he left off in Minnesota last year. JSN is on pace for a historic season. Hell, you can make an MVP argument for JSN also. And the defense for both of these two teams has also been really good. We know how good Mike Macdonald's defense is and how good that Seahawks secondary and defensive line also is. But the Rams defensive line, don't sleep on them. Jared Verse a dog. They also have Byron Young, who's pretty good. Brandon Fisk. They got a lot of players on that defensive line. And the Rams defensive line doesn't get talked about enough, in my opinion, for the amount of talent that they have on that roster. The matchup that I'm the most excited to watch in this game, Sean McVay versus Mike Macdonald. This is going to be cinema. You have the boy genius at offense and the boy wonder on defense. Mike Macdonald is pretty much held in the same regard that Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay are on offense, just on the defense side of the football. And he's looking to prove that defense can still win championships, people. You got a Rams offense that's 5th in points per game and 5th in yards per game, and a Seahawks defense that is allowing the 5th least amount of points in the league, and also their 4th in yards per play allowed. And this Seahawks secondary matches up very well with the wide receivers, Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams. They're going up against Devon Witherspoon, Tyreek Woolen, Julian Love, Kobe Bryant. Seattle also has really fast linebackers that are phenomenal in pass coverage. This is going to be a really great matchup, a really great chess match between two of the best football minds when it comes to their respective sides of the football that they specialize in. Who's going to come out on top? I think that the key to this game comes down to the turnover margin. The Rams don't turn the football over pretty much at all. Matthew Stafford only has 2 interceptions on the season. We know Sam Darnold can get a little bit reckless at times. Sometimes Sam Darnold can try to do a little bit too much, and he ends up making some errant throws that make you go, Sam, why would you throw that, Sam? Just check it down, throw it out of bounds, live for the next play. In this kind of game, Sam Darnold's risky play, his recklessness, could come back to bite the Seahawks in the rear end, but I'm still going to take the Seahawks to get the win. I am shocked that the Seahawks are not favored to win this game. I think that they probably are going to end up playing in the Super Bowl because they say defense wins championships. Yeah, it's an offensive-minded league, and everybody gets infatuated with these offensive-minded coaches. Mike Macdonald is bringing back defensive-minded coaches. Put some respect on these defensive coaches, man. We got not just Mike Macdonald, but we still got the Miko Ryans going strong down there in Houston, man. I think after this game, people are now going to start viewing these defensive-minded coaches a lot differently than what they were before because of guys like Mike Macdonald. I love the Seahawks to win this game because of how great their defense is playing. And plus, they've been the best road team in the NFL over the past 2 years since they hired Mike Macdonald as their head coach. They are 4-0 on the road this year, and they also are 4-0 against the spread. All signs point to the Seahawks winning this game and covering plus 3.5, man. This is one of my best bets of the week. I'm going to have it on my parlay. This Rams defense is really good, but the Seahawks defense is just in a different weight class. And I got Matthew Stafford on my fantasy team, so I need him to put up a few points for me. But I'm not really expecting the same kind of performance out of Matthew Stafford in this game that we see him have over the last couple of games, man, because this is a really good defense. The first half of the season, they battled through injuries. This is as healthy as the Seahawks have been all season long. And I'm not expecting them to blow out the Rams. It's going to be a pretty close game, but I see the Seahawks defense being able to win it for them late in the fourth quarter, and that ultimately ends up being a huge difference in this game. The Chargers, winners of 3 straight, are heading to Duval to take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Vegas is laying 2.5 on the Chargers. The Chargers have one of the best coordinators in the NFL who probably will end up being a head coach next year. Jesse Mentor versus Liam Cohen is the matchup that you have to look out for. Liam Cohen, the first-year head coach of the Jaguars, has done a fantastic job of being able to do with what he has to work with. Trevor Lawrence hasn't been that good. I expect him to struggle against Jesse Mentor's defense. But if Travis Etienne can get going, then that makes life a lot easier for Trevor Lawrence and Liam Cohen as a play caller. The Chargers defense is pretty good, 13th in rushing yards per game allowed. They have the ability to be ran on if they're able to find a way to get Travis Etienne hot early. If they can get Travis Etienne breaking off a few big runs in the fourth quarter, I think that sets the tone for this Jaguars offense for the rest of this game. But if they don't get Travis Etienne going and the Chargers take away the run, it's going to be tough sledding for the Jaguars all afternoon, because not only is Trevor Lawrence a problem, but you have a receiving core that is top 3 in the NFL in drops. You have an offensive line that doesn't really hold up that well, and pass protection against a Chargers pass rush that is ferocious, 8th in the league in sacks per game. And the Jaguars need to get Travis Etienne going early, because they got to be able to have success on the early downs. First and second down is going to be crucial for the Jaguars in order to win this game, considering that the Chargers are 4th in the NFL and getting you off the field in third down situations. And the Jaguars' third down offense isn't really that great, because Trevor Lawrence doesn't have great pocket presence, and he just has poor understanding of good situational football. So the chess match between the Chargers defensive coordinator Jesse Mentor and Liam Cohen is going to be the biggest key to winning this game. Now, we saw the Jaguars have a catastrophic meltdown last week against the Texans in the fourth quarter when they gave up 26 unanswered, losing that game. And this defense that the Jaguars have, when they're not able to force takeaways, they're not as good as what the statistics show. The Jaguars defense lives and dies off turnovers. And Justin Herbert, as good as how he has played this season, he has turned the football over a lot more than what he did last season. He was the most efficient quarterback in the National Football League in 2024. He still is playing good football, but the turnover numbers have went up exponentially. And Justin Herbert's going to have to put that cape on for the Chargers to win that game, to win this game. Now, he is able to put that cape on and wear it good and, carry the Chargers to wins with the injuries that they have on the offensive line. Even though the Jaguars pass rush sucks, he's going to have to run around. He's going to have to do a little bit with his legs. The Jaguars are 5th in the league in rushing yards per game allowed. The Chargers have the 10th best rushing attack in the NFL. We know with Greg Roman being the offensive play caller, he wants to run that football, but they probably won't have a lot of success doing that against this Jaguars run defense. So it's going to come down to how well Justin Herbert can take care of the football, and can he be able to play efficient football. And I believe that he can. Give me the Chargers, 24-16. I just can't see Trevor Lawrence having a bunch of success against Jesse Mentor. If you don't know who Jesse Mentor is, you need to write this name down. If you're a fan of a team that's in the market for a new head coach, whether that be Tennessee, the New York Giants, there's not really a lot of big name coordinators that are going to be up for these head coaching vacancies that come open next year. Jesse Mentor is going to be one of those coordinators that ends up getting the job, because he probably is the best one right now, not named Brian Flores. So if you're looking for some unproven coordinators that can be in the running for a few head coaching vacancies, Jesse Mentor is your dude. He had a fantastic game playing against the Steelers. And over the last 3 games, the Chargers on average have only given up 17, not even that, 12 points per contest. And I don't even include that pick six that Justin Herbert threw against the Tennessee Titans. And I think this is a Jaguars team that's making some improvements, but unless Trevor Lawrence plays the way that he did against Kansas City, it's hard for me to trust Jacksonville to win this game with how well Jesse Mentor has this Chargers defense playing. The 49ers take on the Chargers. They currently are a 2.5-point favorite going into this contest. The Cardinals are a very feisty football team. They're a lot better than what their record may indicate. They have lost 5 games this season by 5 points or less. Ever since Jacoby Brissett has been the starting quarterback, this offense has been really efficient. The ground game still really isn't that good, but Jacoby Brissett has been carrying his fair share of the load. He will be without his top receiver, Marvin Harrison Jr., who just got ruled out of nowhere with a random injury. And the reason why I call it random is due to nobody really knowing about it until just now, a few hours ago, when Jonathan Gannon said Marvin Harrison Jr. won't play. Now, they still do have Trey McBride and a few other receivers that are good enough to get the job done. The 49ers defense, with how much injuries have hurt them on that side of football, losing Fred Warner and Nick Bosa for the rest of this season. This Cardinals offense should still be able to put up some points in spite of losing MXJ. Good news for the 49ers on the injury front. You possibly could get Brock Purdy back for this game, and Ricky Pearsall, they're saying that he's as healthy as he's been since he went down with that PCL injury, I believe it was. So if they get Pearsall back, that's going to be a huge plus. Even if they don't have Brock Purdy, Mac Jones gets his most talented receiver on the field. And you put Ricky Pearsall on the same field with Chris McCaffrey, or Jawan Jennings, or George Kittle. This is a completely different offense. We haven't seen the 49ers offense at full strength, and they're nearing 100%. And if they get Brock Purdy back, that's the plus. And the line probably won't be what it is right now. So if you're watching this at the moment, if you can still get the 49ers minus 2.5, that probably is the play, and that probably is one of my best bets for the week. Because although Arizona, regardless if Brock Purdy plays or not, with them getting Ricky Pearsall back, they still are going to be in this game. The 49ers defensively, they've been able to get key stops in big moments when they've needed them, due to how good of a coach Robert Saleh is. He should end up getting another head coaching job, not this offseason, but probably next offseason coming up. So you get him for another year still if you're a 49ers fan. He's done an outstanding job with this defense. I'm not going to read off stats when it comes to this 49ers defense, because stats don't really tell the full story about how good this defense has played under Robert Saleh with the amount of injuries that they've had this year. I got them winning this game 28-24. The 49ers are going to be in a dogfight with Arizona, regardless of who they get back, because the Arizona Cardinals are just a really tough team to beat. In spite of how bad their record may look, they're a lot better team than that. And their worst game of the season was against Seattle last week, when they just got out to a really bad start. And they had hella turnovers, which just put them in too big of a hole to dig out of. The run game isn't really that good for them, but Jacoby Brissett has been pretty solid, and he'll keep them in this one. But that's the problem with the Arizona Cardinals. They don't know how to close out games. They don't know how to finish. And I can see the Cardinals getting out to a lead, the 49ers crawling back into it, and walking away with the W 28-24. I'll take the 49ers to cover and to win outright. The Cleveland Browns are hosting the hot Baltimore Ravens. They are a 7.5-point dog going into this game. The Ravens have had 3 straight dominant wins, and this is as healthy as the Ravens have been all season long. And this is their first time seeing Dylan Gabriel. The last time the Ravens played the Browns, Joe Flacco was in that quarterback. Now, the Browns' only chance of being able to pull off this upset is if Quinshon Judkins ends up going off in this game. Quinshon Judkins has been the heart and soul of this Browns offense. And you can tell how much they trust Quinshon Judkins with the amount of volume that he's getting. He's getting like 20, 25 carries every single game, which also shows that they don't really have a lot of trust in Dillon Gabriel. And Dillon Gabriel is the worst starting quarterback in the NFL. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm not trying to, joke about that. I'm being dead ass serious. Dillon Gabriel is the worst starting quarterback in the National Football League. Anytime you have a quarterback that's averaging under 5 yards per pass, he just isn't that good. He doesn't have a good arm. He can't push the football downfield. So all the Ravens really have to do is stack the box up Quinshon Judkins, and force Dillon Gabriel to beat them. And Dillon Gabriel won't be able to do that. The Ravens, they won't show any respect to Dillon Gabriel unless he can complete a few passes of 10 yards or more. The Ravens are going to be having Quinshon Judkins under wraps all afternoon. And when that happens, the Browns pretty much have no chance to win. Now, their defense will keep them in it at least for a quarter or two, but eventually the floodgates will open and the Ravens will run away with it. I got the Ravens covering that -7.5, and I got them dominating the Browns 31-6. I don't expect this game to be all that different than what it was last time, and I might be a little bit generous giving the Browns even 6 points in this game, because with Dillon Gabriel at quarterback, I don't even know if they can even get past a 50 in this game. Maybe we see Shedeur Sanders make his NFL debut, because I can see the Browns being down big at halftime and the crowd start chanting, Shedeur, 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 or we want Sanders. We want Sanders. So if you're one of those Shedeur Sanders fans that's hate watching on Dillon Gabriel, this might be the game that you can tune into, and you might get your first glimpse at 12 and some real NFL action, because, this game probably won't be close unless Dillon Gabriel does something that we haven't seen him do all year. It's funny, he was a candidate for Offensive Rookie of the Week last week, and yet he didn't really do anything impressive. Now, he threw a few touchdowns, but it's like they were like inside the red zone. I'm not even trying to be a hater of Dillon Gabriel. I'm just being honest. And if we're being honest about Dillon Gabriel, man, there's just no way that you can justify him still starting over Shedeur Sanders at this point, man. We've reached the point of the season when we start to see the separation between the contenders and the pretenders. And right now, the Broncos, they've looked really fraudulent as of late. Yeah, they do have one of the best records in the NFL, but they haven't played like one of the best teams in the NFL. And you got Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs rolling in the Mile High, fresh off a bye as a 3.5-point favorite. This is going to be the game that shows us truly what the Broncos are. Do they truly have the ability to make it out of the AFC and compete for the Super Bowl? Or are they going to fall apart in this second stretch of the season? Now, we know that the Broncos have a phenomenal defense. Even without Patrick Surtain, the reigning Defensive Player of the Year, you have Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper, who are more than in that discussion for Defensive Player of the Year. And we also can't forget about Zach Allen. So with how much talent the Broncos have on their defensive line, this defense is going to give the Broncos a fair shot, a puncher's chance of winning this game. Now, what's troubling about Denver and what has people concerned about the Broncos and why they can be seen as fraudulent, why they can be viewed as pretenders, is their troubling offense. Bo Nix has regressed. The play calling out of Sean Payton has been lackluster, very conservative, nothing but screens, and more screens with the occasional deep ball that Bo Nix constantly overthrows. But somehow the Broncos are still finding ways to win. They are winners of 7 straight, which includes an impressive win over the Philadelphia Eagles. Which leads me to this question. Are the Broncos the 2020 Steelers or the 24 Kansas City Chiefs? Because last year, the Chiefs were winning games the same way that the Broncos are currently winning games this year. It wasn't really pretty. They were in a lot of one-score games. The offense was pretty sluggish in the majority of them, and they were winning games off defense. special teams, block field goals, botch snaps. The Chiefs' mantra for last season was just survive in advance. And that could be the same thing for the Denver Broncos. And look, it's not luck if you do it twice. And the Broncos, all throughout this season, have been finding different ways to win. They don't win the same game that they won last week, if that makes sense. Basically, they just have different ways of finding ways to walk out with the W. And at the end, that's all that really matters, because this isn't college football. This is the NFL, and style points don't really matter. Now, the Broncos could also find themselves being what the Steelers were 5 years ago in 2020, because the Steelers had a great defense that year, and Big Ben was playing some really good football until they faced off against the Washington Commanders around this same time during that season, and the Commanders end up exposing the huge flaw of the Steelers' offense, which was their inability to push the football downfield. The play calling was hella conservative, and that's the same issues that you see with the Denver Broncos this year. So this game is either going to reaffirm the Chiefs and how good this team is going to be come playoff time, and show us just if the Broncos are pretenders or if they actually are contenders. And the Chiefs, anytime this team looks like they're about to hit their stride, they end up hitting the roadblock. They dominated the Baltimore Ravens, and then a few weeks after that, they lose to the Jaguars on Monday night. Then they bounce back from that. They rattle off 3 straight wins, which included beating the Detroit Lions, not just beating the Lions, but dominating Detroit. And then they end up losing to the Buffalo Bills. And you're just wondering when the Chiefs are going to put that thing in the gear. And we haven't really seen it yet. And the last time we saw Kansas City, they lost to the Buffalo Bills. And it was the worst game that Mahomes has had so far this season. Now, good news for Kansas City is you get your stud offensive tackle, Josh Simmons, back. However, the Chiefs' run game is severely going to hurt them. We know how good this Broncos defense is, and they're one of the best teams against the run. And the fact that the Chiefs have Kareem Hunt out there just shows you how bad their run game is. Because Kareem Hunt, I don't know if it's me, but he just has no juice at all. He has to be the slowest running back in the NFL. Looks like he's running like 4 or 5 miles per hour out there. He looks like Tom Brady if he was playing running back. And I'm not trying to say that that's hyperbole or to be insulting to Kareem Hunt, but he just doesn't really have that second gear, man. It's like he gets hauled in from behind too much. He doesn't really break off a lot of runs, 10 yards or more. And same thing with Isaiah Pacheco. Now, he's a lot more faster, but he doesn't really have great vision. Like, the Chiefs are going to have to win this game off the strength of Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid's play calling, which they definitely have the ability to do that, but it's going to be really tough to put up points on this Broncos defense. And this is going to be one of those old school defensive slugfests. It's going to be one of those 17-10, 13-10 kind of games. Offense is going to be at a premium. I got the Broncos shockingly winning this game. Look, the Broncos are one of those teams that it doesn't matter how they win. It may be a shootout one week, a slugfest the next week. All that matters is that they're just finding ways to win. They're finding ways to survive and advance. And I don't know how sustainable this style of play is for the Broncos, but that's just one of those things that you worry about next season. We probably see the Broncos struggle to win these close games, somewhat like how the Chiefs did last year. The Chiefs were in a bunch of one-score games, and they were able to win them. And you can't say that the way the Broncos are winning is fluke and luck. It's not luck if you can do it twice. And the Broncos have been doing it multiple times this year. And I think that they do it again, and they find a way to beat Kansas City. Hell, they had Kansas City against the ropes last year. Remember, they had that blocked field goal? So the Broncos do have the Chiefs' number. Now, the Chiefs' offense is more improved this year than what it was last year. This is the best offense that the Chiefs have had in, the last 4 or 5 years since they got rid of Tyreek Hill. But even without Patrick Surtain, with Jonathan Cooper, Nick Bonito, both candidates for Defensive Player of the Year. They're going to be harassing Patrick Mahomes, and I don't think Kansas City's offense ends up having a good afternoon. And I got the Chargers, or not the Chargers, the Broncos winning this game 17-14, and I got them covering plus 3.5. This probably will be the biggest upset of the week, considering a large majority of the public is taking Kansas City. And look, they say great minds think alike. I'm going to have to fade the public on this one and take the team that just finds ways to win. We got the Lions versus the Eagles on Sunday Night Football on NBC. Yeah, the Eagles are favored by Vegas by 2.5. And Philadelphia, they haven't looked like the same dominant team this year as what they were last year. Now, they still are very good. They're as talented as any other team in the NFL, but their offense is more so methodical. We're going to grind you out. They're 20th in the league and yards per play at 5.3. Saquon Barkley is under 4 yards per carry. Jalen Hurts has been playing some really good football, and I wouldn't necessarily look at you crazy if you're an Eagles fan and you say that Jalen Hurts deserves to be in the MVP discussion, because when you have a 16-1 touchdown interception ratio, hell, nobody can really knock you for playing that level of efficient or have that level of efficiency. And Jalen Hurts has been as good as he's ever been so far this season, considering that the Eagles offensive coordinator, Kevin Patullo, has been under fire, it seems like, every single week. People are calling for his job. You got the whole drama with A.J. Brown. Jalen Hurts has handled everything pretty well. And you're going up against a Lions team that they're looking the proud. And this is a game that's going to have huge implications as far as who ends up getting the 1 seed in the NFC. And the Lions have been the more explosive of the two teams this season. They're 4th in the league in yards per play at 6.1. You got Jahmyr Gibbs, who's been snapping, J-Mo, who can go off at any time, and you got Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's been one of the more productive receivers in the league. The Eagles secondary, how are they going to be able to hold up? Because their pass rush has improved with the addition of Jalen Phillips. But the Lions still do have one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. You got Jair Alexander, who's contemplating retirement, so that's a huge letdown that you're not going to have him on the field, because cornerback 2 is still a problem for Philadelphia. And if you are the Detroit Lions, it's no question that you're going to attack that weakness. You're going to attack whoever they have on the opposite side of Quinyon Mitchell. And just overall, the Eagles not being able to get consistent pressure, just rushing for, could end up being the edge that wins the Detroit Lions this game. And Detroit defensively has been really good this year. Their defense has been miles better than what it was last season. They're 12th in pass yards per game. Aiden Hutchinson is a huge reason for that. He's been humming off the edge like a buzzsaw. They also are really good at forcing takeaways, top 10 in the league in that department, and they have a top 10 run defense. So everything that Philadelphia does well offensively, Detroit has a great counterpunch on defense for their strengths. And I'm going to take the Detroit Lions to win this game 30-26. This game to me is going to come down to who's better on 4th down and who can score more efficiently in the red zone. Both of these teams are top 5 offensively in those departments. I take Detroit to win that matchup 9 times out of 10, because just with the Philadelphia Eagles, unless they have the tush push going, anything other than that, I don't see them really having that much success on 4th down unless they're in 4th and 1, 4th and inches. Detroit, we know that big balls, Dan Campbell, he's going to go for it no matter what. Anything within 4th and 5, near the 50, around that range, he's going for it. He's leaving the offense out there. He also has took over the play calling, which is a little bit shocking because I don't really think the play calling was that bad, but hell, Dan Campbell feels like the offense can be better. Dan Campbell knows better than any of us. And I just think that with the holes that the Eagles have in the secondary and their inability to get consistent pressure rushing for, That's going to be a huge advantage for Detroit to take advantage of. And I got them winning this game 30-26, and I got them covering +2.5. Follow us on all social media platforms. You can find us on Instagram at JT_, on X at JT__. TikTok, you can find us at JT__ as well. So you can stay up to date with everything that's going on with the JT Sports Podcast, along with updates and bonus content as well. Go ahead, follow us on Instagram and X. Links are down in the description and pinned comment section below. The last game that we have to talk about, the Cowboys taking on the Raiders on Monday Night Football. Weren't the Cowboys just on Monday Night Football like 2 weeks ago against the Arizona Cardinals? I don't hate the Cowboys. I'm just Dallas Cowboys fatigued. I am America's team out, man. It's like every single week we have them playing on Monday night, Sunday night, Thursday night, the 4:25 kickoff games on CBS and Fox. Like, can we just get a break from the Dallas Cowboys being shoved down our throats? But I got no problem seeing the Cowboys playing on Monday Night Football again, the NFL double dipping, because this is going to be a fun game to watch. Both of these two teams have struggling defenses, and a lot of points should be scored. And the Cowboys are a 3.5-point favorite, and they probably should be favored a little bit more, but it's understandable why Vegas is only giving them 3.5, because this is a game that Geno Smith should end up coming out and having one of his best games in the silver and black. The Cowboys defense is the second worst in the NFL, only behind the Cincinnati Bengals, or ahead of the Bengals, and every quarterback that goes up against this Cowboys defense looks good. Now, they do have Quinnen Williams, who they recently acquired at the trade deadline from the New York Jets. He's going to make an instant impact in this game because the Raiders' offensive line is terrible. And a lot of people know of Quinnen Williams, but they don't know how truly good Quinnen Williams is. And when you play on the Dallas Cowboys, all the eyeballs get placed on you. And I think Quinnen Williams is going to have a similar impact on Dallas' season as what Amari Cooper did a few years ago when they traded for him. Now, although they play on different sides of the football, a guy like Quinnen Williams, who can take over games, getting after the quarterback, stopping the run on the interior of the defensive line, has such a big impact, and it forces offensive coordinators to kind of have to change their scheme, change their play calling around that, because it's one thing to have a dominant edge rusher like a Michael Parsons. It's another thing to have a dominant interior guy on that D-line. And you also do have the guy that you got in that Michael Parsons trade from the Green Bay Packers, who has been pretty good this year. So the Dallas Cowboys getting Quinnen Williams is one of the best trades that Jerry Jones has made since he got Amari Cooper. I expect them to have a huge game on the awful and atrocious Las Vegas Raiders offensive line. Now, the Raiders offensively, even though Geno Smith is going to have a good game, they still are going to want to run the football, because with the amount of turnovers that Geno has had this year, the Raiders are going to want to put the ball in Ashton Jeanty's hands. And Ashton Jeanty will go off in this game. We know that Pete Carroll is an old school coach. He wants to run the football. The Cowboys are 28th in rushing yards per game allowed. They're giving up 143 yards on the ground per contest. So this could be a coming out party for Ashton Jeanty. We could see Ashton Jeanty, as a rookie, have a similar performance to what Jonathan Taylor just had last week. And I'm dead ass serious when I'm saying that. Ashton Jeanty has been phenomenal this year. Now, although the stats don't show how good Ashton Jeanty has been, he's only second behind Jonathan Taylor in broken tackles. So when Ashton Jeanty gets the ball, he's making things shake. It's just the offensive line, the big boys in front of him, they're not giving him too much to work with. There's only so much you can do when as soon as you get the football, boom, you're stuffed. Boom, somebody's putting your helmet in the turf. But against this Dallas Cowboys defense, though, now with the additional Quinnen Williams, it will make things a lot more difficult for Ashton Jeanty. But overall, I expect for Ashton Jeanty to go off in this game. Now, I'm also expecting for Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, and George Pickens to go off in this game because the Raiders secondary isn't really that good. The strength of the Raiders defense is on their defensive line. And the Cowboys have the perfect counterpunch for that with them still having a pretty good offensive line. I actually would say one of the better offensive lines in the league. I'm taking the Dallas Cowboys to win 38-31. I think this game is going to be a shootout. You're going to see a lot of high scoring. This is probably going to be the highest scoring game of this week due to how bad both these defenses are. I will take the Cowboys to cover. You can trust Dak Prescott a lot more than you can trust Geno Smith. And give me the Cowboys with the dub.